So this year I've done quite a few experiments with trying to fill some gaps in our diet, and one of those big gaps is baking potatoes. So right now we've run out of baking potatoes in the store, and so we want baking potatoes as soon as possible. And this is what we're trying. So I saved some of my Charlotte potatoes from last year, and so they were nicely chitted through December and all ready to go in early January. So I actually started them in smaller pots and let them grow on in those for a few weeks. I think probably about 3, maybe even 4 weeks. And now transplanted them into these bigger containers. These are 35-litre containers, and there's just 2 tubers in each of those pots. I've got another one here, slightly different date, and another one here, again slightly different date. So I'm trying to see how early I can get them. Now I know from last year's experience, just growing them on the allotment under cover, that I can get really good baking potatoes at the beginning of July. But it's the middle of April now, and it's a long time to wait from the middle of April to the beginning of July. So I want to see if I can get them even earlier. So these are, I think, pretty much ready for harvest now. So I'm going to take one of these now, and I'm going to take one of them in 2 or 3 weeks time, and then another one maybe a week or so after that. So I'll see how they do. So there was no shortage of green growth from 2 tubers, and my concern has always been, watching these grow, that all this green growth means all the energy from those tubers has been put into growing all that green, and there's no potatoes in this tub. So let's take a look. So at this time of year I'm normally happy just with one of these containers full, and you know, right now there's nothing much on the actually not too bad on the surface. I'm just going to take a few, see if there's any on the surface before I tip it out. Right, nothing much on the surface, so that does not bode well, but let's take a look. So it's a decent sized potato, but it's not a baker. Well, these are good potatoes, but they are not baking size. But that's not a disaster. Oh, actually, maybe that one was, because they're still a lovely harvest. And this is the earliest container that I've got, so I can easily wait another couple of weeks for the next container, and they might grow on to be even better. But so far, I would say this is, you couldn't call it a success, but you could call it progress in the right direction. I think I might have done there. So with only 2 tubers, you're not going to expect a huge yield, but it's not a bad yield this early in the season. So right now we are on the, what's the date? The 19th of April. So there we go. I think I'm finished, and that's what we got. So that is not a bad yield, to be honest, for this time of year. I can't say I'm thrilled with it, because I didn't quite achieve what I wanted. I mean, there are a few in here that would meet the requirements of baking potatoes, but I'm looking forward to seeing what we get in 2 more weeks, and then what we get in 4 weeks. Now, if you're interested in playing along with this year-round growing lark, then you can take a look at my ebook in the year-round growing section. And if you're looking at potatoes, this is the one you want. And I go through all the different types of potatoes and all the different techniques that I use to grow salad potatoes and baking potatoes and general purpose potatoes all year round. And there's plenty of videos in here, as well as lots of additional data and detailed instructions and all of that. So take a look at that if you want to grow year-round potatoes. So now I've got space for this early courgette, which is coming on nicely. I've got 2 more courgettes in the polytunnel, just slightly behind that one. If you want to find my book, I'll put a link to that in there as well. Obviously the year-round growing guides are part of the book, but there's lots more to it. And I should also just point out that the stuff in green has been written, at least the first draft of it. The stuff in amber is being written, and the stuff in red is either early drafts or not written at all. But yeah, here's the year-round growing guide section. And lots more in here as well, including the basic section, which is really useful. That goes through the way that I sow, the way that I use grow lights, the way that I do hardening off and planting, looking after the soil, dealing with pests, weeds and growing under cover and all of that. So take a look if you want in the description below. And although I was only fairly pleased with that result, when Debbie came home she was absolutely over the moon with them, because she hasn't had baking potatoes and she loves baking potatoes. She's like, baking potatoes for tea! Anyway, my name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.